So February has been an interesting month. I left Quartzsite, Arizona on February 1st, and from February 2nd when I got into Utah, and then February 3rd I arrived in Wyoming. From February 2nd, I've been in winter weather, and so that has been interesting to say the least. I came up early this year because my daughter had to have surgery, and I wanted to be here to help her out and help with the girls as she was recovering for a couple of weeks. Unfortunately, she's doing a little better now. Not 100% yet, but definitely doing better and improving. So that's why I've been up here. And a lot of people asked, am I going to go leave the trailer in Arizona, drive up in a van and go back, or am I going to bring the trailer up and then go back to the desert again? I am not, and that's simply because of the timing on it and the cost to travel and the distance. I could probably take off again now if I wanted to, but we're starting in March tomorrow, and we're getting into milder weather this time of year, so it's just not worth going back and forth with the price of fuel and everything. It cost me $600 to get from Quartzsite to Wyoming just for gas, and that's was hauling the trailer. It'd be a lot better, but it'd cost me another $600 or $700, maybe $800 if prices keep going up, to go back to the desert and come back up again in just a few weeks or a month at the most. So it's not worth making the trip again. So I'll just tolerate it. But I did come up with a few takeaways from this month as I was thinking back on my experience over the past month, and we have had some brutal weather. When I first got here, it was kind of mild. Last weekend, so a week and a half ago, we were at like 51 degrees Saturday and Sunday. And then this past week, we went from 51 degrees down to single digit highs. A couple days we were at like highs right around zero. And then our nighttime temperatures were as low as 20 below. So that's definitely some hardcore winter camping. I realize there are places that get colder than that, but that's basically pretty extreme cold. I have lived places that hit 30 or 40 below. I know I have a few viewers from Canada and Alaska where it might get even worse, but that's pretty darn cold, and especially when you're not in a house or something. So first takeaway concerns supplemental heat or heaters. So I would say if you're going to do this kind of extreme winter camping, cold weather camping, sub-zero stuff, then you anticipate needing more heat than you think you're going to need, because it's hard to guess ahead of time. It's going to vary based on your personal comfort levels and the humidity or dryness of the air, which, because when it's humid, it makes it feel colder, and how well insulated your vehicle is, how large your vehicle is, how much the wind is blowing, and how sealed up you are. All those sort of things are going to come in to affect just how much heat you're going to need. But there's a good chance of doing extreme winter camping and you're not accustomed to it, you'll end up needing more heat than you think you're going to need, in my opinion. I've been using a combination of a small electric heater and the famous Mr. Heater Portable Buddy. I'm staying at my son's house. He has a 50 amp RV electrical hookup, so power is not a problem. So I've been using the electric one for the most part. It works fine during the day and it works fine at night, unless it gets really, really cold. It starts getting down to really cold temperatures, and then I have to supplement with the Mr. Heater to crank out some serious heat. And one thing I found to be super helpful is heavy clothing and warm blankets. I actually just wearing a t-shirt today because it's been quite nice today. First really nice day in a week or more. But we were up into the 50s today, and then the next 3 days we're going to be in the 60s, which is wonderful. Then it settles back down into March for more more seasonable weather. So it's like 30s and 40s during the day and teens at night every night. But that really makes a difference, be able to dress warm, because if I'm wearing warm clothes, warm socks, a warm shirt and everything, I find it's comfortable here if the temperature's in the mid 50s or low 60s, whereas otherwise you may need it a little warmer, and when it's really cold, it's hard to get it up to 70 degrees, although with a Mr. Heater I can do it. But there are other issues then with that. But so having warm clothes helps to stay comfortable while you're up and about, and I have quite a stack of blankets on the bed that keep me very warm, even when it's very, very cold outside at night, and I just have the heat running on low just to take the edge off inside. Probably the single biggest issue I've run into, a takeaway here, is the condensation challenges. it's not a significant problem when I'm running the electric heat. The electric heater makes it very, very dry in here. So dry, in fact, that my throat gets scratchy, and I could use like a humidifier to put some moisture back in the air because it's so dry, and I don't get much condensation on the windows or anything. This RV has halfway decent insulation. It's got 1.5 inches of foam in the ceiling and 1 inch in the walls, but it does have the old single pane RV windows, so I do have moderately heavy curtains that help with some of that as far as insulating the windows, keeping them from getting cold in here, keeping them from condensing up. But so it's not much of a problem with the electric heat. It is a major problem with the portable buddy heater, unfortunately. And I've been using these things for years now, so I'm aware of that problem. My experience in the past was always in vans, minivans, and I was in a car. I couldn't use that, of course, but I did use it in a minivan. I arranged my build to make sure I had safe clearances for it, which meant losing some usable space, but it did mean I could have heat, and I am often in places where I need it. And then, with a couple different vans I've had, the portable buddy, and it's always an issue when you're using it much because it puts out so much moisture. Well, when you're in extreme cold, like I've been in Wyoming, and you have a week when you're hitting like single-digit highs and sub-zero nights all the way down to 20 below, you're running a lot of heat. And as I was saying, the electric heater doesn't always keep up. So there were times when I had the electric heater going on high and the portable buddy on low. But when that happens, I have a huge condensation problem when I have to run the portable buddy for very long. All my windows have condensation on them, then they freeze up, so they're all iced over. Looks like an ice cabin. And the other thing I ran into was that the roof vents were getting condensation on them, which I did not realize initially because of the screens and stuff. I didn't see it. And then that condensation froze. And I didn't discover that condensation issue until it started to warm up a little bit. The first day we had when it was in the teens and the sun was out, it started the heat inside with the sun shining on the outside started melting the condensation on the roof vents that had frozen, and it was dripping from both vents into the trailer. And the really scary thing was the front vent was dripping right beside my desk, where it's annoying because I have to sit here at work, but it was scary because I have a bunch of electronics in this area, and that could have been a real problem. And it's worth noting that even though it's winter here, the climate in Wyoming is drier than in a lot of other places. So, if you were someone that's really damp, like I was in upstate New York last winter for a few weeks, and it was I was in a van still, but it was a huge problem there. I had all kinds of condensation issues from running a propane heater indoors because it was so cold, but it was also very damp. But even in a relatively dry climate, when it's cold and you're just pumping so much moisture into the air from the portable buddy that you're going to have condensation issues. For a few days, that's annoying. Long term, so if you're spending a lot of time in winter camping, that's the kind of thing that can cause some real long-term damage. You can end up with rot, you can end up with mold, because you have so much moisture inside. These things are, vans aren't made to live in, period. And then you get into RVs and stuff, and they're made for, short-term use. They're not really made for living in. So that's when you start getting that long-term condensation stuff, that can be a real problem. That can do real damage to your vehicle. Obviously, you have to have some ventilation anyways, using a Mr. Heater inside, but there's only so much you can do. When it's 20 below zero outside, you don't want too much ventilation because all your heat's going right out the window, especially when the wind's blowing. That night it was 20 below. It was minus 37 with wind chill. So you don't want any more ventilation than you absolutely have to have. But if you can ventilate, it helps. But again, if you're in a really wet climate, it doesn't help very much because the air is saturated anyways. And I have had a few people ask about those little dehumidifier tubs and little plastic tubs. You can get it at like Family Dollar or Dollar General or some of those places. I've seen them. I have tried those in a van before. When I tried them, it was in Wyoming in the springtime. It was actually in May, and we had wet snow and temperatures down as low as around zero. And so I was having to run the heat a lot. And I didn't find a lot of value in them. I've been told they work, but I had so much moisture. I had all the interior surface of the van was wet. I was going around multiple times there with a towel trying to wipe up condensation. So it was far beyond what those things are going to do. I think in a smaller space like a car, SUV, minivan, and you're primarily worried about moisture from like breathing and stuff, because that puts moisture back into the air too. I think probably they'd help better, especially in a drier climate where you're able to have some windows cracked and have some ventilation going, and then those things might be more effective. Like I said, the time I tried using them, a dehumidifier would have struggled. A powered dehumidifier would have been struggling to get the moisture out of the air. But those may be something worth trying if you're dealing with a more moderate condensation or moisture problem. And if I can find them on Amazon, I'll throw a link in the description so you can see what it is I'm talking about if you're not familiar with them. It's another takeaway. We spent a little time on condensation, but that's been a big issue, and I think it's going to be an issue for a lot of people who are camping in winter conditions. I've always heard of it being a problem. But the next one is cabin fever. Now, I've weathered this month pretty good. I've been able to heat the trailer to comfortable temperatures with some challenges, but I've been able to heat it to comfortable temperatures. But I've been inside most of the month. I was making trips to my daughter's a couple times a day, but I still was inside over there. I've taken a few walks in the park to do some photography when it was after fresh snow and stuff, and that was kind of fun. But for the most part, I've been mostly inside and mostly in the trailer for an entire month, and I'm definitely developing a case of cabin fever. So hopefully, while it's nice for the next few days, I can get out on a road trip to the mountains, do some photography, maybe get the drone up. Really looking forward to doing that since I've been here. But I was tied up for a few weeks with my daughter, and then it's been so cold the past week that I wasn't going anywhere. So, especially wasn't going from the valley up to the mountains at 8 or 10,000 feet, where it's going to be even colder. When it's single digits here, I definitely don't want to be up at higher elevations in the mountains. And one other takeaway, because I've done winter camping for quite a while, it's easier in the trailer. It would be easier in an RV, of course, any RV, of course, but it's easier in the trailer than it was in the van, which was easier than in the minivan, which was easier than in a car. The big to a point, getting a little bigger, having room to stand up and walk around, having a little more space, having an easier way to run heat. It's just easier. If you're stuck inside trying to run heat and everything already bundled up, it's easier with a slightly larger space to do it in. So those are the takeaways I've identified from my experience this past month, where since February 2nd I've been winter camping. If you've done some winter camping, what are your takeaways on winter camping and dealing with extreme cold while you're off grid or living in a vehicle? And if you haven't done this kind of thing, what do you think some of the challenges would be for you? What would be the most significant things that would be difficult for you to manage or deal with? Well, thanks for joining with this video, everybody. We'll catch you in the next one.